Hi. So I've realized I haven't actually introduced myself, so I wanted to just make a quick video to do that. My name is Maximilian, and where do I really start to introduce myself? I could start at the very beginning, but I think that would take too long for one video. So I would like to just tell you a little bit about how I've arrived in this position that I'm in now, in the way that I am positioning myself on the internet and in life. So I've always been a very curious and inquisitive person. Especially as a child, I was extremely wondrous around trying to understand and finding out things about life. And this kind of root motivation of curiosity really just continued in my life. And it led me to being very kind of rebellistic in school, really wanting to understand things and thus really questioning the authorities and questioning knowledge that they were giving us. I remember in school time I was always often told I was the one that always says everything is relative. So I got these kind of labels quite early in my childhood already around really wanting to be interested in the layers underneath and the relationships that things have to each other. So this continued after my school life in my university life where I studied sociology. And again here it was just a real drive and intrinsic motivation on my side to kind of find out what this world really is about that we're in, and from the sociological perspective to kind of find out all the structures that society is based on. And while I was studying, I inquisited more into also the inner world, so going from the external world in sociology more into the internal world. And I did this kind of in a few different ways. One actually was within sociology. I got very interested in the phenomenology of people, and this is kind of more in the realm of philosophy rather than social sciences. And on the other hand, I started to practice meditation, self-inquiry, and just generally soaking up a lot of information from people who have gone kind of an inner journey, an inner path. And this interest just kind of grew and grew over the years, originating from my original curiosity of life. And about 1.5 years ago, I decided to go on a trip to be able to really clear my life of the things that I didn't feel were kind of in this progression or this alignment of what I was really interested in. And so around 1.5 years ago, I went to Australia, which is where I've lived in the past as well, and took kind of a sabbatical year, you could say. I quit all my jobs, I left all my kind of responsibilities, I closed off a lot of social situations and a lot of responsibilities that I had to give myself a space to really explore what is wanting to emerge out of this empty space. And so, with the pandemic kind of being a thing roughly 1.5 years ago, it was actually that I had arrived in Australia and I had meant to travel a little bit more in the world, also in Southeast Asia. And around a week after I arrived in Australia, kind of, if I can say it like this, shit hit the fan and the world kind of shifted. And so I had to make a decision if I was going to stay in Australia or go back to Berlin. And I decided to stay in Australia and really allow myself there to have that space and to give myself that space that I was talking about before. And so while I was in this empty space, I started exploring different ways of kind of showing up in the world and different ways that I could integrate my intrinsic curiosity and motivation to explore life on the external as well as in the internal, and trying to find some sort of form in which that was able to express itself. And along this kind of inquiry, coaching came up again and again. Coaching had to come up a few years ago, before I was really thinking about what I wanted to do, and I had initially dismissed it quite quickly because I understood coaching, or the way that coaching was presented to me was often in a very shallow and strategic way, where it was more about changing the doing rather than working on the being and the consciousness of the person. And so also in my progression of finding coaching as a professionalized form with which I can work, it was really a shift, experiencing first the, let's say, more shallow aspects of coaching and being quite averse to that. And then while I was in Australia, discovering some more deeper approaches within coaching. And so this kind of showed itself as a way, a form that I could show up in life and that I could express my curiosity. And I took those steps, realizing that, wow, this feels like it's something really exciting, something I can really get into. And so I did my first kind of course and my first real dive into learning to become a coach. And while I was doing this, I really realized how many of my skills that I had kind of set up or that I had been practicing over the years could naturally flow into the practice of showing up as a coach. And so maybe that as a little introduction as to how I've arrived here and why I'm doing this kind of work. For me, coaching has become a vehicle to live life in a really full sense, to be in constant transformation and constant inquiry with myself, as well as with other people, because I've realized I can support people very well in their process, and as I need people to support me in my process, I am there to support others in their process. So that's just a little bit about myself and how I kind of have arrived at coaching. And I hope this gives a little bit more insight into who I am, into why I'm doing this, and where this is all coming from. So, yeah, thanks for listening to me and sharing some space with me while I was exploring this. And I'm looking forward to, at some point, maybe seeing you. Thanks, bye-bye.